So, Resident Evil Village came out a couple days ago. Well, it came out over a week ago. At the time of recording this video, it's been about a week. At least recording this segment, that is. And so far, I've really enjoyed the game. I've played through it once already on Standard, and I've already started my playthrough of it on Hardcore. I don't think I'll end up playing Village of Shadows. I'm never usually that good at Resident Evil games, but I am extremely excited to play the game on Hardcore. It's just, I've played a bit of the opening mission, and it's very difficult. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about my experience in general with Resident Evil Village. It's more of a review / analysis kind of video. Now, I don't usually do these kinds of videos, but with this game I wanted to do it, because one, the game got really hyped up, and two, I actually really enjoyed the game, so I wanted to talk about it, give my opinions on it, talk about the stuff I liked and a few of the things that I didn't actually very much like. Talking of liking, do you want to like this video and maybe hit the subscribe button if you like Doom Eternal content and Resident Evil, because I'm wanting to cover more Resident Evil, sometimes Titanfall, just depends what I have to talk about. But if you like that kind of stuff and general shooter stuff like that, then I'd recommend subscribing. But other than that, let's, actually get into the video. First thing I want to say is that Resident Evil Village looks beautiful. The graphics in this game are absolutely stunning. Some of the best next-gen graphics that I have seen so far, only being competed against by games like Call of Duty Cold War. And now, Resident Evil Village took me around 11 hours to beat, and that was on my first playthrough. All the footage you're seeing now is from my first playthrough of when I first ever played the game. Right from the beginning of the game to the end. I hadn't seen anything about the game. I'd only seen a few trailers, thought it looked good. I bought it, and I played it. I enjoyed it a whole lot. And overall, I think the opening to the game is a bit too heavy on action, and is extremely difficult, especially for being the opening. And now this is kind of stuff that you'd expect later on in the game, but before the actual combat and stuff during that opening mission, there is bits where you're in Ethan's house talking to Mia with Rose, Ethan's daughter. But the thing is that this segment of the game goes on for a very long time, and it can get kind of boring if you just want to play the game, especially on repeat playthroughs. Like I said, I started my hardcore playthrough, but the problem is with that is that it took ages to get into the actual gameplay, and by the time I got to the first enemy, I was like, oh, I'm done here. I didn't want to play past then, because the opening itself was so exhausting to play through. And I do really think there should be an option to skip this intro. At least skip it to when you meet the old man in the shed who gives you the pistol. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that Capcom had some really, really shady marketing for this game, with them locking Village of Shadows difficulty behind pre-orders until the player finished the game. Because if you finish the game, then you get Village of Shadows unlocked after the game's been completed. But if you pre-ordered, then you'd immediately get Village of Shadows, and I think that you should have just got it normally, straight out of the box, if you didn't pre-order it anyway. I got mine on a pre-order like a day before, because I wanted this difficulty and some of the other stuff. But, in my opinion, should not have been a pre-order bonus. I don't think the difficulty settings, stuff like that, should be pre-order bonuses, especially if the game is this long, with a lot of areas where you can get confused with puzzles and stuff, which might add on to the time stuff. Like the fact that they put Chris's face in the cover for the game, which I don't like that. Because the thing is, you play as Chris for a very short amount of the game, and for pretty much the entire game you play as Ethan. And at this point, we all know what Ethan looks like because people have seen the model. So I don't understand why they didn't just put Ethan in the cover, because of reasons later on in the game. This is Ethan Winter's last Resident Evil game, at least what it seems like to me. Which is honestly kind of disappointing, because through Resident Evil 8, I actually started to appreciate Ethan Winters as a character a lot more. I've heard from many people that in Resident Evil 7 he was kind of a boring character and more of a blank slate than anything. and not the cool kind of blank slate like the Slayer or Master Chief, where they have some amount of personality.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
And that Ethan was literally just a shell. But in Resident Evil 8, I actually really enjoyed his character, and watching the way that the cutscenes play out.
I don't want to be a part of Miranda's family.
Neither did I, but here we are!
And the way he interacts in gameplay is really cool. He's not really mobile, and the field of view is very tight, and I think it's meant to keep this kind of tense horror atmosphere there, which is cool, but I think that there should always be a FOV slider for video games like this, especially FPS games, because there's a lot of people who don't like playing with low FOVs, myself included. Some games I just can't stand with low FOVs, especially fast-paced ones. This game is a bit of an exception, I didn't really mind it as much, but most games I do not like to play with a very small FOV. And there's PC mods for this, but the console players don't have access to mods, so I think that they should add in features like this so that people can widen the FOV and stuff, so that they can have a better experience and maybe start enjoying the game a whole lot more. Another thing that I think a lot of people had a kind of issue with is the large variety of areas that you go to, and some people have had issues with the pacing of the game and thinking that it's not very well paced. But in my opinion, I do actually really like some of the environments of this game. The swamp area, though, I'm not a big fan of the swamp area. Honestly, it felt kind of exhausting to move through, and the fight with the fish thing, I actually forgot his name. It was fun, but everything leading up to that during that segment, I wasn't a fan. But, unpopular opinion here, but I was actually a big fan of the dollhouse thing. The big mansion. What? I forgot the doll's name. See, some of the characters, some of the boss fights in this game, I just don't remember their names, but then there's things like Lady Dimitrescu or Heisenberg.
You ungrateful, selfish wretch!
Or some of the other characters that I actually remember the names of. That's kind of annoying.
Not bad, hunters.
But yeah, the house with all the dolls in it, I liked some of the puzzles in that one, especially the one with the wooden mannequin of Mia, where you had to kind of take it apart and look for clues and stuff. That was a really cool segment, and I really liked it. It was probably one of my favorite parts of the game, trying to figure that out with my brother sitting next to me, trying to figure out the puzzles during that segment. There was a massive feeling of accomplishment when I finally figured out one of the puzzles, even though I did Google a few. Music box. But yeah, most of it was really good during that segment. I do think that you should have been a little more involved when you killed the doll thing. I don't think it should have been a quick time event. And the other small dolls around the house were really annoying, and the cutscene that played when they got you, it's just not fun to watch, and it goes on for a bit too long in my opinion. So if they cut down the length of that cutscene, then it would have been a lot better. And then there's other segments like Heisenberg's factory and Lady Dimitrescu's castle, which is just, it's Resident Evil. They're the best levels in the game, in my opinion, the best areas. And I had a lot of fun in both areas. Running from the witches or Lady Dimitrescu is actually kind of terrifying, having them chase behind you as you can't do anything because they're bulletproof. Those segments of the games are really good, and prove that the witches are not only out to kill you, but also your frame rate. Whenever the witches came up on screen, my frame rate plummeted, and I don't know why. It might have been just because the sheer amount of flies on the screen, but it was only whenever they got close, so that was kind of annoying, and I know there's been some optimization issues with Linux. Fortunately, I use Windows and not Linux, so I'm kind of away from that issue. But for the Linux players trying to play this game, I do feel bad for you guys and hope it gets fixed. Though, Heisenberg's factory, oh, it was something else, dude. I really liked that area. Heisenberg was probably one of my favorites out of all the villains in the game, and it's probably more due to the fact that he had more screen time than some of the others. The only character that I think had a lot more screen time was Lady Dimitrescu, and then Heisenberg's got quite a lot even then. And the factory was such a spectacle to look at. it like really gave me Ghost Runner vibes a bit with the way that all the factory stuff worked. It looked like a Ghost Runner level. There was also the Soldats, which I call Terminators, as you learned from my last video. Dude, I love the Soldats so much. They're some of my favorite enemies in Resident Evil 8. And it's just, they're so, like, I'm not going to say unique, because they aren't really unique, but they're just really fun to fight, and they have different variants of them. There's ones that have armor, the normal ones with 2 drills instead of 1. And they're just a really cool enemy concept. Oh, there's also this thing, the human propeller thing. That fight was actually surprisingly fun, and I really enjoyed the fact that the generator was on its back, and we had to get it to pretty much run into a wall to be able to damage it. And it was one of my favorite fights in the entire game. But then Resident Evil Village hits you with this. So you see Chris, he kind of reveals a bit of the truth to you, and then turns you into a goddamn Doom Hunter. Dude, this bit, when you hop onto this robot thing, I was thinking, oh my god, there's finally a game where I get to play as a Doom Hunter. How fun is this? And it was so awesome. It was one of my favorite parts of the game. And dude, I loved that segment so much. It was so good. And the fight with Heisenberg, in my opinion, oh, I loved it. It was so good. And he actually looked like that thing from that one Transformers movie, like the big mishmash of trucks and stuff, that thing from that Transformers movie that everyone forgot, that one. And I just genuinely really enjoyed the fight with Heisenberg. And it might just be due to the fact that I felt like a Doom Hunter when I was fighting him. Even down to the chainsaw and rocket launcher, dude. All we needed now is for if Ethan died during that segment, he just says critical damage. But then we get to the final twist. Well, not final, but the twist in Resident Evil Village. Yeah, Mother Miranda kills Ethan. There's not much else to say, she kind of just kills him, she rips his heart out. And then, magically, he comes back to life, and there's a massive reveal, which I'm not going to spoil for you, because you need to see it for yourself. But before Ethan comes back, you play as Chris for a bit, in what I could only describe as Call of Resident Evil. It didn't feel like Resident Evil during this segment, and I don't know why, it just felt kind of weird playing through it. It didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like a Resident Evil game at that point. There was like a boss fight in that area. That boss fight was, it was a bit easy, if I'm gonna be honest. I tested it, I stood still for as long as I possibly could, and yeah, the boss pretty much didn't manage to kill me. It took him quite a long time, and he didn't really do much to me. So that was kind of easy. He also had night vision goggles, which I don't know why. Chris puts them on whenever you go into a building, and that's pretty much that. But oh yeah, where was I again? Yeah, Ethan comes back to life now, and when you finally kill Mother Miranda, you meet up with Chris as you try and get the little girl Rose out of there. The most unexpected thing happened during this segment. So you didn't die earlier on in the game, but no, they kill you off now at the end. So he pretty much blew himself up. Now, honestly, I was kind of disappointed. I didn't want Ethan to really die at this point. I was actually excited to see where they took Ethan's story in the future of the game. But I guess we have no choice now. He's gone. Yeah, he kind of blew up. But at least we'll have more games in the series, considering Rose in the post-credit scene for this game was a little older and was obviously working with Chris for some point. I'm not actually sure, but pretty much this game was really good, and I highly encourage you to get it. Ignore some of the complaints I've listed here if they don't bother you, and if they do, then deal with it, I guess, because the game is really worth it in my opinion. One of the best games I have played recently. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, then give it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, then consider subscribing. It helps motivate me to make more videos, which means more entertainment for you if you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just a win-win. I also have a Twitter if you want to go follow that. I post stuff there, I guess. And I also have a Discord. People chat there. That's what Discord's for, so go join that. But other than that, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.